Welcome to Loving God and Loving Life. Here we are in Acts chapter 16, where the theme is Paul being directed in a vision to preach in Macedonia. He and Silas are imprisoned and they convert the jailer. The story begins, kind of comically, actually, as Paul is, trying to spread the gospel. And we have him walking in two separate times in this chapter. God directs him away from where he's headed, where he wants to go, and ultimately, finally, grants him a vision to go to a place called Macedonia. Well, if you can follow, these places still exist on a map. Well, they still exist in the world, but on a map you can follow him. And there's at least, you can't tell perfectly, but there's at least 50 miles of walking that have been wasting, probably upwards of 100 miles. It's possible, I guess they had donkeys, but bottom line, that's a lot of hours walking or on a donkey's back. But for some reason, God lets them go out of the way that much to finally give them the direction. Now you'd think that if you finally saw a vision to go to a place, well, when you get to that place, it's going to be magic. Everything is going to pop. Well, interestingly enough, they get there, they convert one person, they sharing their faith, and Lydia, and her family find Christ. And then this traumatic thing happens, and you'll read the chapter, hopefully, where, they get into some trouble and they get thrown in jail. And then the jailer gets converted and his family. So here we see Paul being escorted out of town. And this is Philippi. You've probably heard of and know the book of Philippians. Well, that book came from Paul writing back to the church that got established in this town. Well, think about it. This was by the time he wrote Philippians, this was a well-established church. But what's amazing is this well-established church, Paul was only there a week before he got kicked out of town. And we just read it in this chapter. And that week involves him sharing with Lydia and her family, and then the jailer and his family, and then he's gone. So how does a great church come out of that? How does Philippians come out of that? I think these people were doing exactly what we're doing. We can read later and find out that Lydia and her husband, they're not great preachers or anything. They're just sharing their faith. They're not the Apostle Paul. I doubt they prayed our exact prayer, but they're sharing the love of God with the people around them, and they're doing their part. And again, God is building his church. God is active. Let's not praise Paul. Paul's only there a week, and a great church gets established because God is active through hearts and lives like yours and mine. That's why we pray this prayer. God today, send me one person today to share your love with. Friends, I hope you never forget that doing God's will and loving God, it's the only way to end up with a life that you love.